Hi, welcome to SBR Sports Picks. I'm Peter Loshak. Today is Wednesday, May 31st, and we have UFC 212 coming up this Saturday from Brazil. Kind of an interesting card from a handicapping perspective, and we're going to break it down from a betting and odds angle with our regular guest expert, Andreas Hale, MMA and boxing odds analyst. Andreas Hale, an interesting card here with some kind of interesting matchups and some curious handicapping situations, right?
Yeah, I agree. I definitely, looking at this card, there's some interesting things to take a look at.
All right. Well, the first thing that struck me when I broke down this card is one fight that I thought had great betting value when I first started breaking it down, and it has moved significantly since I first started analyzing it, and that's Yancy Medeiros against Eric Silva. Now, of course, Eric Silva, very inconsistent, very beatable at times. Looks like the elite fighter that people thought he might be when he started out his career, but more often than that, he just looks inconsistent and beatable. Yancy Medeiros kind of on the other side, up and coming, looking pretty impressive, a rangy kickboxer with some nice power. So I was very surprised yesterday to see Medeiros as just a -120 favorite. Since then, it has moved significantly. Now Medeiros is -150. Silva on the other side is +130. I know Silva has a home country edge here, but I was definitely liking Medeiros a lot at -120. I think I'm still liking it at -150. What's your take on that one, Andreas Hale? First of all, should Medeiros be the favorite here, and how big of a favorite should he be?
Oh, man, it's really tough for Eric Silva. As you mentioned, the guy is terribly inconsistent. One day he's a world beater, and the next day he's beatable. It's hard to bet against him because you never know which Silva's going to come out to play, because he's very capable of beating just about anybody any given night. I'm a little surprised the line is where it's at -150 for Medeiros. And with that being said, I have to go with Silva at a +1. Well, I believe he's at a +130 right now. So I have to lean on Silva because I just kind of think that he's going to have to come out to play in front of his hometown crowd. So, and it's all mental with him. The ability is there. So I'm going to have to go with Eric Silva here.
Really? So would that be a lean, or would that be an official pick that you think has some value?
Oh, it's going to be a lean. I can't trust the guy at all. I can't trust him. I never know what he's going to do. And then some days he just comes out and surprises me, and some other days he makes you just want to rip your ticket and throw it out the window. So that's a lean. That's not an official pick.
And how about the fact that, he's Brazilian, fighting in Brazil, and in general with elite fighters, I do tend to, especially elite Brazilian fighters, I tend to give them a bit of an edge when they're fighting in Brazil. When you have an inconsistent guy here like Eric Silva, do you think that matters? Is that a factor to you or not really?
I do believe in the hometown advantage for Eric Silva in this case. I think he has a lot to prove, not just to his fans in his home country and, to Sean Shelby and the matchmakers of the UFC, but he has to do it at home. He can't continue to be as inconsistent as he's been. So with that being said, I think he has to come out and perform. So that home field advantage, it's going to definitely play a factor, but I think he's got his back against the wall once again, where he's in danger of completely falling off the map and out of favor of the UFC brass.
Yeah, all right. So that's a tough one. Then there's two other matches with fights we hear with a big favorite that I'm not sure if they should be that big of a favorite. We'll get to that in a second. But now let's get to the main event: Max Holloway and Jose Aldo. This is another interesting one because of course Jose Aldo has been basically unbeatable over his last 19 fights, I believe, except for the 13-second knockout loss to Conor McGregor, which was obviously eye-popping and eye-opening, but might have also been a little bit fluky. Other than that, he hasn't been beaten, and yet the odds recently were dead even for him and Holloway, and now Holloway is actually a small favorite, -115, Jose Aldo -105 on the other side. Absolutely understand why people think Holloway has a real chance here. The question is he getting a little too much respect, being a slight favorite over Jose Aldo? What do you think?
I agree. I think he's getting a little bit too much respect. I mean, this is a Jose Aldo who was the #1 pound-for-pound fighter in the world until he got knocked out by Conor McGregor. And aside from that, he doesn't look beatable. You look at the Frankie Edgar fight, Jose Aldo made that look pretty easy. And both times he fought Frankie Edgar. He hasn't been in a ton of trouble in fights. Max Holloway has all the goods. He's a dynamic striker. He's an efficient ground game. He's a capable wrestler. But against a guy like Jose Aldo, who seems extremely motivated, if you look at him, the weight-cutting problems that he had before seems to have gone away. It looks like he's a lot smaller. He's a little bit more svelte and, ready to get in there. So that being said, I think Aldo should be at least, a -150 favorite. I'm a little surprised here. So I'm picking Jose Aldo to win this fight. I wouldn't be surprised if Max Holloway won it because, like I said, he's got the goods. But I can't go against a guy who just doesn't lose to anybody aside from Conor McGregor, which, like we said, it's a fluke. This isn't going to be a fluke. I don't see that happening.
Right. So to anyone who's just in general handicapping Jose Aldo in general, that loss to Conor McGregor, do you see that as basically entirely a fluke, or do you see it as Aldo having been exposed in one way or another, or really just a matter of getting caught and a completely fluky result?
It was the stars aligned for Conor McGregor. You know, he got into Jose's head, and he caused him to overcommit, and Conor McGregor countered like he said he would. So that doesn't happen again. I don't think anybody else can get into Jose Aldo's head but Conor McGregor. So it was a bit of a fluke. Perfect timing. Conor McGregor has a dynamic counter left hand that puts anybody away. So all those things aligned to make that happen. Aside from that, Jose Aldo, if they were to fight again, I don't think that would happen again unless Conor got in his head again. I don't see that happening either.
Yeah, all right. So I would be in agreement with you here and leaning Aldo at -105. Do you have can you shed any light on why Holloway is now the favorite, why he's taking money, why the odds makers have set the line where it is, and why the public has been betting it the way they have?
Well, 10-fight winning streak for one.
Sure.
He's young, and he's looked excellent. He destroys everybody that he's been in front of. He made Anthony Pettis look like a novice. He looked great against Cub Swanson. I mean, he's looked phenomenal in his last few fights. Ever since losing his first two fights to Conor McGregor and Dustin Poirier, he's ran roughshod over the competition with very little resistance. So I understand it, but Jose Aldo is just a completely different beast. Again, I have to reiterate, this guy was the #1 pound-for-pound fighter in the world until the McGregor fight. If you take that fight out of the equation, there's no question that he's probably still the #1 pound-for-pound fighter in the world. But things happen. He lost one fight, and now people are looking at youth. They're looking at the younger guy to take advantage to become the full champion of featherweight.
All right. Another factor that I know people are talking about is just the fact that Holloway he doesn't have a reach advantage, but he does have a significant height advantage. He's 4 inches taller, so that means that Jose Aldo is going to have to punch up in order to connect, and that's going to reduce his effectiveness presumably at least a little bit. Do you think that the height advantage here is going to be something that will test Aldo in a way that might be something new for him?
Not necessarily. The only fight he had a real tough time with aside from Conor McGregor was against Chad Mendes. That was a grueling war. Aside from that, guys like Mark Hominick, they had height and reach advantages. They couldn't do much with him. It's really up to Jose Aldo of whether he's going to employ those soccer kicks that have been decimating a lot of his opponents, like Uriah Faber and anybody else he stood in front of. If he's ultra aggressive, he wins this fight. Max Holloway doesn't have the strength and power that Conor McGregor had to put him away. But it can get very interesting. But that height and reach advantage, Max knows how to use it, but I don't think it'll be a significant factor heading into this fight.
Yeah. All right. I'm in agreement with you, Andreas Hale. No disrespect to Max Holloway, but right now Holloway is a very small favorite in this fight, and I think that Jose Aldo should be a very small favorite in this fight, but favored nonetheless. Then there's two fights with big favorites, and that might be some of these classic UFC main card fights where there's betting value on an underdog, even if you expect the underdog to have a greater than 50% chance of losing. The first one is Claudia Gadelha against Karolina Kowalkiewicz, and of course these two women are both undefeated in their careers except for their fights against Joanna Champion. Now Gadelha is great. Obviously she's from Brazil too, so she will presumably have an advantage fighting in her home country here, but it just feels like at -300 and Kowalkiewicz on the other side at +250, that Karolina is getting a little bit disrespected here. Gadelha should be the favorite. Should she be that big of a favorite? I'm not convinced of that. What do you think, Andreas?
Absolutely not. There's no way that, as much as I love Claudia and I think that she should be the favorite, -300 is a little bit insane. Right. Claudia Kowalkiewicz, in her fight with Joanna Jędrzejczyk, she hurt her. Granted, Joanna's beat them both pretty soundly. She was in a little bit of trouble in the rematch with Claudia. The first fight was kind of a coin toss, but for that to be a -300 is a little bit insane. I'm not sure what they're seeing. Maybe they're assuming that Claudia's ground game will be dominant, and she'll deploy that to beat Claudia, but Karolina. But I don't get it. I don't understand this. I have to sign with Karolina. If you're a betting person, you have to take that as the massive underdog here.
Yeah, and I'm assuming that there's also a pretty significant home country edge being factored in here for Gadelha as well, right?
Yeah, but, Karolina fights everywhere but home, it seems like. So anywhere, she's going to be at a disadvantage. So I don't see that factoring in there too much. And I think Karolina is just a very capable striker, and she has the reach and the tools to give Claudia a hard time. So, granted, I'm not picking Claudia to lose this fight, but I just don't see how she's such a big favorite. Right.
I'm in agreement with you as well, and I also think that cardio might come into play here as well. Again, with an advantage there to Karolina. And then another fight with similar odds, and I'm feeling similarly about is of course Bang Boshe against Bora Chinha, and again, this This one was Paulo was minus 335 yesterday, and Oluwale was plus 275 on the other side. I felt similarly about that one. Didn't quite understand why he should be that big of an underdog. Now it's moved down significantly. Paulo is minus 280 as a favorite, and Oluwale is plus 240 on the other side. So it's corrected itself a little bit. I still think, though, that I mean, this is basically going to be, you know, a barn burner where one of these guys is probably just going to get knocked out. And, you know, again, Paulo probably should have the edge here. He's undefeated, obviously, but Oluwale looks fearsome, and I really don't think he should be this big of an underdog, similar to Karolina. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, granted, I think that Paulo should be a little bit more of a significant favorite here. He finished all of his fights within a round, so we're curious about his cardio. But yeah, the fact is this fight's not going to go the distance. Somebody's going to get knocked out. As big as a favorite as, you know, minus 350, minus 300, no. Minus 250, I could see. Oluwale, you know, he's a little bit shinny and he gets touched a lot, so I could see him getting knocked out. But these odds, you know, they scare me away from a fight like this, especially considering Paulo, you know, he hasn't been in there with guys with a great deal of experience, and we really don't know what to expect of him. This will be the true litmus test. I would kind of stay away from this fight and watch for future betting purposes to see if this guy Paulo is the real deal.
Right, right. And then for anyone, obviously, these guys are knockout artists who like to finish fights early. So obviously, the under is going to be something that people are going to be attracted to. Right now, though, under 1.5 rounds, minus 250, over 1.5 rounds, plus 210. I'm not going to touch that one as a bet, but maybe there is still value on the under there. Maybe not, though. What's your take on that? That's a tough one, Andreas.
Yeah, that's a lot. You know, it's a lot of an investment there for me, so I'd stay away from that as well.
All right, okay, and now let's just move to the last fight on the main card, which is two old fogies, right? Nate Marquardt and Vitor Belfort. This is, you know, Belfort's last hurrah in the UFC. He's also taken some money recently. He's now up to about a minus 160 favorite. Marquardt is on the other side, plus 140, and obviously the UFC's kind of, you know, trying to set Belfort up here for you know, a relatively winnable fight, you know, in his home country. But, you know, considering how beaten down he has looked recently and deflated and everything, that might not be a gimme. Marquardt is also, you know, an old guy who's taken a lot of punishment, but certainly could pull out the win here. And at minus 160 for Belfort, do you think that's given him a little bit too much credit or not?
It's way too much credit. I mean, look, the guy's he's gotten ran over his past few fights. He hasn't put up any opposition whatsoever. And the only fight that he has won was against a 40-plus-year-old Dan Henderson. I can't give the guy that much respect, especially when you look at when Asada has come into play and how when you say deflated, he looks deflated. He doesn't look like the same Vitor Belfort that knocked out Luke Rockhold. So I got to stay far, far away from Vitor Belfort here. I think Nate Marquardt's going to win this fight. He's never been flagged. He's never had any issues. And given the fact that Vitor just looks like a guy who's been a punching bag the last few fights, I got to go with Nate Marquardt.
You think it goes a distance, or you think that if Marquardt wins, he actually knocks Vitor out in Brazil?
I think he can knock him out in Brazil. I mean, like I said, Vitor has put up very, very little resistance. Not to say that Nate Marquardt's a world beater, but he's knocked guys out. I mean, look, Nate Marquardt knocked out Tyron Woodley, who's the current welterweight champion. So he's got the power to do so, and Vitor is just extremely chinny and very beatable. I don't understand this either. I don't see how you can bet for Vitor Belfort. If USADA wasn't in the play, yeah, I could probably see that. But USADA is here, and Vitor just isn't the same guy he once was.
Right, right. All right, well, normally, as you know, Andreas Hale, I like to take totals more than I like to take sides or fighters in MMA fights, but I think I'm liking a side in all 5 of the fights on the main card here. Let's get to our final picks. I'll give a pick in every single fight. I'll take Jose Aldo at minus 105 currently, Kowalkiewicz at plus 250 currently. I'll take Nate Marquardt at plus 140 currently, Bang Boshe at plus 240 currently, and then finally, I'll go against you. I will take Yancy Medeiros even at minus 150 currently. So that's a pick in all 5 of the main card fights for me. Andreas Hale, out of all the 5 fights, what are the bets that you think have current betting value at the current odds, sides, or totals?
Well, like I said, got to go with Nate Marquardt. Can't trust Vitor Belfort as far as I can throw him. I can't throw that guy very far. So got to go with Nate Marquardt. I'm also got to go with Jose Aldo. There's just no way I figure that Max Holloway should be a favorite in this fight. Granted, you know, Jose Aldo does have a loss to Conor McGregor, but so does Max Holloway. So I got to go with Jose Aldo there. And Karolina Kowalkiewicz, to be a big underdog like she has and being able to go the distance Rihanna and Jacek, you got to go with Karolina here, especially if you're a betting and you're looking for some value. There's your value. And I'm gonna stay away from Eric Silva because I can't really trust him. And the Paulo fight, I think he'll knock him out, but I think the line is a little bit too big. So there's only 3 locks for me. The other ones I got to stay away from.
All right, Andreas Hale agreeing with 3 of my picks on the main card of UFC 212. Thanks so much, as always, Andreas, for your insightful, thorough analysis. Talk to you again very soon.
What's up, everyone? I'm Drew Martin with SBR. Want to give you an update on a free handicapping contest that we're putting together. It's called the MLB June Bet Points Contest. The purse is 1,500 SBR bet points, which go to the top 5 finishers. The top 5 finishers also get an SBR t-shirt, and the winner of the contest can be featured on one of SBR's shows. I'm Drew Martin for SBR. Make sure to find it on the SBR tab on the SBR website. I'll see you in the contest.